Good morning, everyone. It's Mary, and it's time for another episode of Monday Morning Leadership Bites. This time I actually have this from someone that made a comment, one of the posts a few weeks ago. Her name is Anna Marie Medina. She lives in my community and in my neighborhood, and she said, I would love to see a leadership bite on dealing with a belligerent employee. And that's such a really big topic, dealing with a difficult, belligerent, whatever the adjective you want to use, but dealing with someone that's just not what you want on your team. The energy is not what you want on a team. And I'm going to try to do it justice in a short bit of time. This might be a little longer than a normal leadership bite, but it's a topic that I think we need to dive into. And maybe I'll come back to this depending on how things go. But inevitably, as a leader, we're gonna deal with someone who's just not a great employee for whatever reason. Maybe they don't perform as expected. Maybe they're really difficult to deal with. Maybe they're not a team player. Maybe their performance is not up to snuff. Whatever it is, we can have someone on our team that's just not a team player. And as leaders, we can actually feel taken hostage in these situations where we're spending so much time and so much energy, and we're not dealing with our responsibilities because we're always dealing with the other team members who are feeling as if the person's not pulling the weight, or you're not doing your responsibilities because you're spending so much time with that person, or you're having to constantly make excuses and come behind them and clean up. But whatever it is, we can sometimes feel hostage, and even when it comes to a point where it's time to let go, we can't pull a trigger, which part of that we have to do some little introspection of ourselves as leaders and figure out, what is it? Why can't we pull that trigger? What's going on inside us that would make us not feel as if we can do that? And also, too, when it comes to difficult people and difficult employees or difficult volunteers or difficult family members, whatever it might be, what is it about that behavior that person's doing? And see if it's something which is, maybe it's opposite of your personality type. And we're going to have difficult people in our lives. So sometimes, if we can just analyze that a little for a second, we can possibly find some clues in that. But I generally find there are 6 difficult employees, and this is not an inclusive list, but this is kind of the 6 I sort of see. One is the victim, the person who always has something happening to them, and it's never their fault, and there's always a story that goes around why they couldn't do the task they're doing and why they couldn't perform the way you wanted them to. Second is the bully, the person who will rant and rave and hiss and scream and get very, very emotional, whether it's anger or sadness and whatever it might be, but they take over the situation with their emotions. And a lot of times it erupts out of nowhere, where you could be in a situation thinking everything is in control, and then the tears happen, or the screaming happens, or slamming of doors, whatever it might be, and they kind of put you on your back heel a little bit. So then you're dealing with that, and you're like, now I got to deal with this situation. 3 is your negative Nelly. The negative Nelly is someone that, no matter what the situation is, they always let the air out of the room, and anything positive can be easily undermined with a negative Nelly. Number 4 are the ghosts, the people who just don't show up, whether they're late to the office, or they're late to the appointment, or you can't find them when you call them or text them, and they're always an excuse of what they're doing somewhere else instead of being the place they needed to be. Number 5 is the narcissist. The narcissist, it's the opposite of a team player. It's all about them. It's all about their ego, protecting how they feel. And they could probably have a little bit of the victim and the bully in them, because it's whatever they can do to sort of self-preserve themselves. And then 6 is the Einstein, the person who truly is the smartest person in the room, but they've got some quirks to their behavior. So those are kind of the 6 to deal with. I got 9 tips, and that's a lot. So I'll make sure that I have them on the screen for you. But there are 9 tips when dealing with a difficult employee. Number 1, I want you to dig deeper. When you find someone who's a difficult employee, look past the behavior at the person and find out what's going on. Listen to them and try to get to understand them, which is number 2, which is truly to listen to them. See if you can find out what's triggering this behavior. Maybe there's something going on in their lives. Maybe there's some fear. Maybe they feel attacked in some way. If you can do some active listening where you even stop rephrase what that person is saying so you're not getting anything out of context. Get them to agree that is this what's going on? Is this what I heard you at? Number 3, be clear in your feedback. And the feedback needs to be behavioral based. So you're going to separate the person from the behavior. And you're not saying that the person is bad or your poor person was a disappointment. But the behavior that they did was disappointing. The behavior they did was not what you expected. 4, in a corporate sense, you want to look at your company policy. Make sure you know what your company policy is and document it. If you are a small to mid-sized business that may not have a company policy, then make sure you get one in place. And if you are in a volunteer situation or a parent and you're listening to this, because as I said, leaders are coming in all shapes and forms, then maybe it's not an official policy, but you can sort of state, outline, here's what good looks like, and let everybody know what that is. And then when someone's not up to good, you document that process so you can kind of go back and remind yourself, and they can be reminded of what happens. Then 5, be consistent. Let's say that one of the behaviors you have is this person always shows up late. But if you have 2 other people that also show up late on a regular basis, they will always flip the script on you and say, hey, wait a minute, if you're going to yell at me for being late, then you got to yell at Bob and Sue. And they're right. You need to be consistent in behavior. So whatever the behavior is, you say, this is not acceptable, this is not what I like on my team, then be consistent, and it needs to be through everyone, regardless of the situation. 6, there needs to be consequences to the behavior. What happens if I act this way? Can I just blow up and scream? Can I not show up? Can I not do my task and there's no repercussions? Then what stops me from doing it if nothing's ever going to happen to me? So there has to be consequences. 7, don't poison the well. As soon as that negative behavior happens, if you don't address it quickly enough, it will start to go to other people. And other people will realize, hey, why does that person get to get off every time they don't perform? I'm not going to perform either. Or why do I have to stay late when that person gets to leave early? So you want to make sure that you quickly can separate and limit the interaction while you're dealing with that person, because you want to do that in private, not in public. We're dealing with that person, maybe assign them a certain task, and limit the interactions with the rest of the team. 8, manage your own self-talk. Be careful about, hey, this person can't change. This person is an idiot. This person is toxic. Whatever it is, be careful that you don't get into your own judgments about certain things and certain people. That maybe, again, if we're listening to what's going on, there's something happening in our lives that's causing them to be this way. So you just want to make sure that you're watching that. 9, be courageous as a leader. We've talked about this before. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to dig deep and say, I need to do what I need to do. And that may be letting that person go. And I always say, let them go for other opportunities, because maybe they're not performing well in this current organization, and they're not performing well in this situation. But maybe with a little coaching and a little help in their next position, they can be successful. And then number 10, if you can, find a mediator or a coach, someone that you can work with, either to help you before the conversation that you have with the employee or the team member or the family member. But also, too, that you are maybe a mediator that can be in the room with you if you don't think that the situation is going to go well, and you have a third party there to help you through the situation. At the end of the day, effective leaders have a deliberate approach in everything they do. You know, we plan for success, but we don't plan for failure. And we're inevitably going to come up with bumps in the road. There are going to be roadblocks. There are going to be situations that we didn't really sign up for. And if we need to think through that. It's called risk mitigation. We need to think through the possible things that could go wrong, and therefore, what is our approach that if it does happen, and maybe it doesn't happen, that's great, but if it does happen, what can I do to mitigate it? But also, too, what can I do when it does happen to deal with it? So to summarize, you're going to talk to the person about their behavior. You're going to give concrete, specific feedback, and then allow them the opportunity to adjust, to change, to make some behavioral change, and you put it on a plan. It's well documented. Which number 3 is document. That whatever you do, there's no daylight between you about what needs to happen next, including the consequences. And then 4, watch your own internal self-talk or your internal messaging that you've told yourself to make sure that you're doing what's right for everyone involved, not just a difficult person in a team, but also for yourself. So there you go. There's no challenge this week because I'm hoping you don't have difficult employees. And I hope that you have a great and wonderful week. And if you have a topic you want me to talk about, leave me a comment and let's talk about it a little bit further, and let me see if I can do some research for you. So thanks a lot for watching. Remember to like. Remember to share. Someone might need to hear this message. And remember to provide me with a comment. I love your comments. I love your text messages. I love your IMs. I love emails that you guys give me. It's always great to know that this is a message that you could appreciate and deal with. And if you've tried any of these things, whether it's this video or past videos, feel free to give me feedback on that as well. That's also really cool to hear about. So thanks a lot for watching. Have a great, successful week.